Welcome back to the TV program, everybody. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the debut fantasy novel by R.R. Virdi, The First Binding. And I'll be honest, I think this has the potential to become one of the biggest fantasy debuts of all time, for a myriad of reasons, and we'll get to those reasons here in a minute. But let's first start talking about the cover, because you know I love graphic design and cover illustration. So let's give this cover a go. I think it's a very striking cover. Of course, I've got my plastic wrap over it, so it's going to glare in the light. But I love the gold foil wording. I love the font that they've used. I love the painting they've used. It's got a great spine wrap around. The painting is done by an illustrator named Philippe de Barros. I think that's the way you say the name. Also, the book has some other aesthetics that are awesome. Particularly a great map here. And if you look at this map, it slightly resembles our own world today. I mean, you can make out the continent of England and Europe and India and well, maybe it's over here. I can't remember. Yeah, the India. Let's see. That's it's all backwards to me, but I know one side represents Europe, the other side represents Siberia, Russia, and North Korea. The middle is clearly India. And that's a cool map. The map was done by Priscilla Spencer. So, let me talk, before we get into the meat of the review, let me talk about my history with the author R.R. Virdi. I consider Ronnie to be a friend of sorts, an acquaintance. I mean, we met for the first time in 2016 in Colorado Springs, Colorado at the Superstars of Writing Conference that Kevin J. Anderson and Jim Butcher and Brandon Sanderson and David Farland and Eric Flint and James Artemis Owens, all these famous authors put on this great conference in Colorado Springs every winter called the Superstars of Writing. I went to it back when I first got my book deal for my series, and I wanted to go to that conference to learn a little bit about the business of being an author and how to navigate through taxes and all that kind of stuff. So I went there for that. People go for a lot of different reasons, but it is the #1 writing conference in the world, bar none. So many people that have graduated or gone to that conference have went on to get big major book deals like Ronnie. When I met Ronnie, I was going to sit down to dinner with James Artemis Owens, a fellow Simon & Schuster Saga Press writer, and we were going to have dinner, and R.R. Virdi was there, and he's like, hey, can I sit with you guys and pick your brains about the business? And we said, sure, of course, because that's what the conference is all about. The conference is all about everybody just getting together and sharing their information. And so that was the first time I met Ronnie, and it was cool. He sat with us, had dinner. The next time I met him was at the Atlanta Dragon Con a couple years later, where we sat in the same booth and signed books together. This was back when R.R. was doing his self-published titles, and so he had a stack of those. I had a stack of Forgetting Moons, and we spent the whole 4-day weekend literally right next to each other signing books. I got to know him then. That is my personal history with Ronnie. The one thing I know about him is he is, without question, the hardest working writer on the planet. I mean, this guy has had a dream to be a writer since he was probably a little kid, and he's worked at it every day of his life, every second of his life. He's put all of his passion into everything, his self-published work, his traditional published debut by TOR Books. And man, the dude just deserves every accolade he can get, because that's what you want to promote, is people that just have a passion for stuff and just go for it 100% without quitting. And it happens. It happens. He is an example of dreams coming true. So let's get to the book. This book The first binding is huge, 350,000 words. I mean, that's bigger than my books, and my books are considered huge. It's rare to get your debut novel to be as big as mine or to be as big as Ronnie's. So you know when a book this big comes out as a debut from a major publisher, it has got something going for it. And this does. This is one of the... I was like taken aback with just how beautiful the prose was right from the get-go, and how that prose was, and its beauty and its confidence and its structure and everything great about it was consistent from the beginning to the end. And this is going to take a lot. This book is going to get a ton of comparisons to Patrick Rothfuss and The Name of the Wind, purely based off of the prose. Also based off of the story structure. I mean, it almost follows beat for beat The Name of the Wind, in that we start in an inn, we start with a storyteller, there's mystery behind the storyteller, then he launches into the story of his life, and he tells that story to a person in the inn, and that's what we get. This is going to be compared to Rothfuss in every book review you ever read, I imagine. But the story structure itself is not new. I mean, Rothfuss didn't invent that structure. It's been around for a long time. And this is R.R. Virdi's take on this. I will say that the main character, Ari, as compared to Quoth, I would say Quoth is a little more edgy. Ari is a little more nice. Quoth is way more narcissistic. Ari is a little more humble. So if we're going to compare characters, let's just get that out of the way. This is a rated PG novel, so if you're looking for grimdark, go elsewhere. This has very little swearing, very little violence, very little blood, guts, and sex. So this is safe for pretty much everybody to read, which is a good thing. It's not going to turn people away for those things. You know, I bought this book a few days ago. This isn't even coming out until Tuesday. I'm dropping this review Monday. I bought the book on Thursday night. I took the whole weekend to read it. I read about 100 pages an hour. So this, I think I read about 300 pages the first day, 300 the next, and 300 today, right before I'm shooting this review. So I read it pretty quickly, but I enjoyed everything about it, and it was an easy read for me. It just flowed so effortlessly. Ronnie Virdi's writing just flows so effortless. I mean, the guy has just become in the time that I've known him, he has become a master writer. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There are passages in this book that will just blow you away. There are philosophical musings between the characters here that I was taking notes, and I'll read you a few of them that stuck out to me because I really liked them. And another thing about our main character Ari is he saves a kitten. I mean, how can you not like someone that saves a kitten, risks his own life to save a kitten? And he's going around with his friends Roddy and the sparrows, and we'll get into some of that. And let's talk about the beginning. So, we start with Ari. He is a traveling storyteller. He ends up at an inn to tell stories, and he tells a story at that inn. It's very dramatic. And then immediately after the story, there's a girl named Eloine. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Eloine. She comes up to him, and she sort of critiques his story. Calls him a liar. Says he didn't tell the story truthfully enough. I mean, literally, she's like giving him a Goodreads review of his story that he just told out loud. He's kind of like, okay, and so she catches him on that. And I actually really liked that part of it, that she actually called him out on some of his BS, because the whole book is based off of how many lies is Ari telling? How much of the truth are we really getting out of him at any given moment? And Eloine seems to be the one that can sniff it out right from the get-go. So their conversations dominate. So just Ari and Eloise and their conversations dominate about the first 70 some odd pages, and it's great and insightful and very interesting. I was not just two people having conversation. You'd think, well, that would be boring, but it's not. I actually really liked it. On page 65, if I can find it quickly, I have to take my glasses down. There was a great line here that I wanted to read. Should have had these pages marked. Okay, so this is some of the past. This is typical of what you're gonna get. So this is the sort of the musings that Ari and Eloise do between themselves. And just Ari himself is just a deep, introspectful character throughout. And he says, everyone wants their story to matter, and they do. But people forget that. Everyone wants someone, just that right someone, to listen attentively with and wonder and happiness to great moments of their life. And everyone wants someone who will sit by and listen without judgment over the moments we fell, especially when we've gone too far, at least for ourselves. I butchered the reading of it, but trust me, it's eloquent. There's a mystery between Ari and Eloise. There's a who is Eloise, who is this girl that he's telling this story to, what is her backstory? Because, and why is there fire-breathing magic and trickery like that? Because he does have this magic system is called the Binding, and it does give him supernatural powers. I won't get into that because the magic is in the discovery of your own. So just read that, discover it on your own. Anyway, he sits and tells Eloise his story of his earlier life, of how he, and I like the way that this is phrased. He tells her how he killed the world and no one knows it yet. How he killed the world and no one knows it yet. If that's not ominous, I don't know what is. But I'm interested to see where that goes. He also says, another thing he says to her is, little lies, they save us face. And sometimes a little more. And I think we can all relate to that, those little lies, those things that just kind of save us a little bit of embarrassment here and there, or save our pride a little bit here and there. They're just little lies, but they save us face. And just a little bit more. They do to us just a little bit more. Whether that's negative or positive is for us up. So storytelling is very important in this story. The theme of this story is how important stories are. The truthfulness, non-truthfulness, the deception, the wonder, the magic, everything that comes in a story. How is that that's so important? And there's a point in time where Ari gets up to tell a story, and he's basically like, you people need to pay attention to this. You people need to, there's no eating while I'm telling the story. There's no drinking while I'm telling the story. You don't get to get up and go to the restroom. You don't get to piss or shit. You have to pay attention to this story. And I think that is probably, those lines are probably based off of stuff that's happened in R.R. Virdi's life himself, or all of our lives, where we have been trying to get the best joke we've ever told across, and someone interrupts us, or someone butts in, or someone enters the room, or someone shouts, or eats, or drinks, or farts, or something, and our coup de grace, our moment is lost. And if you've ever been a teacher, or a stand-up comic, and you're trying to entertain, or you're trying to make people learn, and there's distractions, people walking by the classroom and the students can see them out the window, or a heckler in the crowd with a stand-up comic. Those things ruin storytelling. That's why people hate hecklers, because stand-up comics, in a sense, are storytelling. And when you get some jackass that thinks that they are more important than what's going on the stage, you hate that person with a passion. And that really comes through with Ari. He wants people to, he has practiced the craft of storytelling to the point where he's got every beat and movement that he does during the stories down pat. And if anybody interrupts that, it can spoil the whole story. And I think that's a theme that's going to run through this book, is you were the one not paying attention. I told you everything you needed to know. You were the one not paying it. You were the one fucking around. You were the one that went to the bathroom you were the one that was reading the book and started daydreaming about, going to Wendy's and getting some, I don't know what Wendy's sells. Burgers and fries? Okay. Frosties? Oh, now I need a Frosty. See, that's how quick you can lose your concentration on a story. Anyway, the meat of the story is I actually enjoyed the story between Ari and Eloine a little bit more than the story that Ari was telling Eloine about his growing up and running around with the sparrows and the thieves and the magic school and learning the magic school stuff and all the stuff that will be compared to Pat Rothfuss in The Name of the Wind, his friend Roddy, the cat that they hang out with. All these things are great and I enjoyed them, but I actually liked the interludes where he came back and started talking to Eloine a little bit more. That's where I found my most enjoyment in a book that was super enjoyable. This thing is going to take off. I promise you it will. This is going to be the next big thing. A great debut, probably one of the best debuts ever. I got to give it 10 out of 10. That's how strong it is. That's how much I liked it. And if you can tell, I loved the theme of it. I loved the storytelling theme of it because I teach life skills to the inmates at the Utah State Prison, and so I stand in front of crowds every day, daily, trying to get people to listen to what I'm saying and buy into what I'm saying. And I could sense the frustration of the author and the characters in this book when people just weren't quite listening to what they had to say. And so I related quite a bit to this book. I give it 10 out of 10. I think it's an absolutely phenomenal book.